Good guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another missing person case Monday. Today we are going to be discussing 19-year-old Sage Smith. Sage is also a transgender, which does not matter, but nonetheless we do have to give her legal name because you just never know, someone may know her by her legal name. And just wanted to throw that out there because I don't want anyone to be offended and I don't want anyone to think I'm leaving out any information, if that makes sense. But it does not matter to me at all. But nonetheless, you have to give respect. So Sage Smith went missing on November 20th of 2012. She went missing from the Charlottesville, Virginia area, and that was the last time any of her family or friends had seen her. She was born on December 13th, 1992. She is listed at weighing 130 pounds with the height of 5'8". Sage was the first to graduate in her family. She later went off to go to cosmetology school, where she also swept hair in salons, and she would even braid hair outside of her home. When she got the apartment, she asked two of her closest friends to move in with her. And from this time, they would just have a great time, party it up, just live their young, youthful lives. So on November 19th of 2012, just a day before Sage went missing, she had a party at her apartment for her birthday. But during the party, a group of girls barged into the apartment wanting to fight. Because they wanted to fight one of Sage's friends over a guy. It was at that moment when they came outside where everything erupted. Sage began to see a group of cars and a whole bunch of people getting out of these vehicles. And during all of this, Sage ended up getting into a fight. She ended up getting into a fight with a guy named Jamel Smith. And like, when I was reading that, I was just like, I wonder if someone tried to set them up to, create this situation because they knew she was going to have, her 19th birthday party at her apartment. But nonetheless, the police were called. And it was crazy because Jamel did a police report saying that Sage had damaged his vehicle. But it was stated that Sage said that this fight was very different because they weren't used to fights of this caliber, nor were they used to being in any type of drama. And later that night, Jamel gets on Twitter, and I want to read what he says. He says, "Been disrespected to the point of no return." But it was said that Sage was very angry with her friend. They have it listed as Washington. They don't say like her first name, but they say Washington. But it has been stated that Sage was upset at her friend Washington because she didn't step in or she didn't do anything to kind of like help with the fight. And Sage was truly upset. She even parted the words, "I hate you." But they were never able to make it right because that very next day is when Sage goes missing. So on November 20th, Sage wakes up and she congratulates her father on his anniversary from being released from jail. Her father states that the phone call was very friendly and upbeat. Nothing was out of the ordinary when he talked to Sage. He basically said that Sage had asked him for some money because of her birthday, of course, and that she wanted to get a new TV. But nothing was truly out of the ordinary for him when it came to Sage. Around 5 p.m. that night, Sage woke up her roommate to tell her roommate that she was going to be going on a date with a man. So then Sage leaves to go on a date with whom they have classified as Erik McFadden. A witness states that around 6 o'clock p.m. they seen Sage by herself talking on the phone. And this was on the 500 block of West Main Street. And that was the last confirmed sighting of anyone seen. Also was like a report that maybe around 7 p.m. that they had seen Sage at a cafe. When the roommate wakes up around 8 p.m., she calls Sage, and Sage's phone goes directly to the voicemail. It was very out of character for Sage to turn off her phone, especially when going to meet a man. So on the following day, November 21st, there has been no contact of Sage whatsoever. And her roommate basically says that Sage would never go anywhere alone if she did not know the person or if she did not feel comfortable going to meet the person that she was going to see. So Washington, around 9 a.m. that day, thought that Sage was calling her to apologize, but it wasn't. It was the roommate who, Carson, I don't know why I haven't been saying her name, Carson, had basically said, "Have you seen Sage? She hasn't come home and we don't know where she is." So Washington told Carson to called Miss Cookie, who is the grandmother of Sage. Sage's grandmother basically says if she's not back by 10 p.m., call the police. The roommate was truly petrified because I can only imagine if that's not your roommate or your friend, your boyfriend, normal routine of what they're doing, you're panicking. And she basically was saying like that's too long to wait. But majority of the time you have to wait 24 hours to 48 hours when an adult is actually missing. When she called the police department basically didn't sound enthused. And I know a lot of people, like I say this a lot of times as well, like they get so many missing person cases that it's really up to us as the individuals looking for our loved ones to get their names out there, because they get so many missing person cases that it's ridiculous. And when her parents found out that she was actually missing, I mean, a parent's intuition is everything. Her father thought that she was abducted. Her mother believed that something truly bad had happened to her, because if you know your child and you know this isn't their normal routine, then you really do begin to wonder what happened to Sage and where did she go and what did this unidentified person, and what did this Erik McFadden have to do with it? Because that was the last known person to have. On Thanksgiving, November 22nd, this is when her case begins to move forward as far as an investigation. This did come to Miss Cookie's home. They asked her the normal typical questions about a disappearance of someone. But Carson, the roommate, basically said that she still felt like police did not take the case very seriously. Police did what they call a grid search, and they tried to locate any footage, any last known whereabouts of Sage, but nothing was able to turn up. So on November 23rd, 72 hours after Sage has been disappeared, makes me wonder, because but it's so crazy how, like, for instance, November 23rd is my birthday. And it's like, you just never know what people are going through on days that you're living through. And that's just so mind-boggling to me. Like, you could be doing something on this day, but on that fateful day, something so severe is happening to other people. That is just like So they were able to get her phone records on November 23rd. It showed that Sage was talking to someone from Northern Virginia for about 20 minutes. The last call came at 6:36 p.m. from an unidentified number. After that, there was no activity going on with Sage's phone. So Sage's father posts that number onto social media, and someone reaches out basically saying that's Erik McFadden's number. And according to Sage records, she had been talking to Erik McFadden throughout the week consistently. They had even met up several times, to have sex and to see each other. The messages, this is where it gets crazy. So the messages had been revealed that they have been having sex, but it turns out that Erik was hiding a secret. He had a girlfriend, and he didn't want Sage to disclose this information to the girlfriend. It had been discovered that Erik was living downtown of Charlottesville, the Sharon Williams paint store. Sage's father believed that police were dragging their feet, and this is when he takes it upon himself to post a photo onto social media. But the police believe by him doing so, it set the case back. But Sage's family basically says like they were doing more of the detective work than they were even doing, because a lot of their information came from Sage's family. But police are saying that they kind of ruined it because they put the photo out there and it didn't give them the ability to talk to Erik McFadden. What's crazy about it is the police didn't list it as like a criminal case, because they said that they had no evidence pointing to such, and the family wanted to know if they had in fact talked to McFadden, but they never released that information. On November 24th, Erik McFadden's girlfriend states that Erik McFadden is now missing. So police tells his girlfriend that they were actually looking for him because they wanted to question him in the disappearance of Sage Smith. But ironically, when they went back to his employer, he had failed to even show up for work. On November 26th, Erik McFadden's girlfriend said that she received emails from him saying that he was in the Washington, D.C. area and that he was also short on cash. Police did go to his girlfriend's apartment where he was staying. He left what they call valuable possessions, his laptop, clothes, things of that nature, and did find a receipt from November 22nd from a CVS. This was, 2 days after Sage had disappeared. On November 27th, detectives got a call from Erik McFadden. He confirms that he was supposed to meet up with Sage on November 20th on the Amtrak train station, but Sage never shows up. And he also states that he didn't know what was going on with her. Then he tells police that he moved from Washington, D.C. to New York. And when detectives asked him this, he says because he'd never been to New York before. On November 28th, detectives broaden their horizon to look for Sage. They look in wooded areas, they look in alleyways, they look all over for her. They even try to look for her at McFadden's home where he, lived. Today, his girlfriend basically says that he is coming back. He's coming back to Charlottesville. It's just like a cat and a mouse trick as I was reading all of this stuff. It's like he was playing hella many games in this investigation. On November 30th, he was supposed to be meeting with detectives to give his statement on what happened with Sage, just have a conversation with the detectives. But his girlfriend calls the detectives and says that he thinks it's best that he goes on the run. That's not guilty. I don't know what is, because if I didn't have anything to do with someone's disappearance, I'm not going on the run. Regardless if you're down low or whatever the case is, you did what you did. But if you didn't kill her, or you have nothing to do with her disappearance, I refuse to go on the run. So I'm going to read you guys the email that he sends his girlfriend on November 30th. So I'm going to go that way. So in November 30th email, McFadden writes to his girlfriend and he says, "I'm heading out. This is what happened. I never did anything sexual with that guy, and he was blackmailing me. He wanted to give him money not to lie from saying we did and I didn't. And I did, and he agreed to stop. And then the next time he hit me up for money, I said no. We did meet up, but he had a lot of enemies. Me and him were walking, and some people showed up, and I kept walking, not looking back." So basically, in a nutshell, he was with Sage the night before she disappeared. In fact, he lied about, because he told police that he never got to meet with her because he claimed Sage never showed up to the Amtrak station. Police didn't get a search warrant for his computer, email accounts, anything that they can possibly get their hands on pertaining to Erik McFadden. So now we fast forward to May of 2013. Erik McFadden sends an email that is untraceable to his girlfriend. And so the police department got a lot of scrutiny because they felt like they were just only focused on McFadden. So as I was reading, the father believes that in his gut, McFadden didn't do it. He believes that one of the friends did this to his daughter, because in a statement, he says that they all disappeared. But Carson, the roommate, denies having anything to do with the disappearance of Sage Smith. She basically states that she was in the apartment the entire night when Sage went off onto this date with McFadden. But Sage's father went over to the apartment the day after Sage disappeared and said that all her wigs that she had were gone, and he believed that Carson had something to do with it. And then on November 21st, there was video footage of Carson using Sage's EBT card at a gas station. And her father basically says, like, your friend is missing, and the first thing that you do is use her food stamp card. And crazy enough is another friend was seen wearing Sage's jewelry after she disappeared. When that friend was confronted, the friend basically stated that she got this jewelry from her boyfriend. Police have stated that they did investigate that Jamel individual, the person she had a fight with, but he didn't have an alibi on the night of Sage's disappearance. And he also disappeared. So this case is so crazy because it can go in so many aspects as you're looking at it from a bird's view. It's like, who and why would someone do it? And it makes you say it could definitely be the friends, because maybe the friends were jealous of her. I mean, this apartment wasn't her name. It was given to her. This home was given to her through the foster care system. So it wasn't like she really had to pay anything. I'm not really sure, but that's what I'm assuming. And then you think about it, she's going to school for cosmetology. She's really trying to get her life on the go. And then the father says she has wigs. They could have easily been disappointed with her. And then let's go back to the fight she had with one of the friends, because she didn't jump into the fight with Jamel. Like I said previously, this case got a lot of scrutiny because a lot of people in the community felt like Sage Smith didn't get the proper search for her. They felt like because she was a transgender and because she was a black transgender, police didn't really work their butts off to solve the case. Like, most of the information was coming from family doing their own investigating. And they even include, another missing person who the girl was Caucasian that went missing in the same area, and how police jumped on that versus when it came to Sage. Now, like I always say in every video, and I try to, that's why I created this platform, mostly because we are the forgotten ones, but that's okay. We have to change the game. We have to change the narrative, and we have to just, make it for what it is and do what we need to do in our own community for that. But this case is one of those ones where I felt like if they would have done a little bit more, maybe we would know what happened to Sage Smith. So in 2017, her case was finally listed as a homicide, because remember, prior, police did not have this case as a criminal activity. They just basically was like, oh, you mean to tell me a black transgender girl goes missing? And I don't want to keep saying that, but you mean to tell me that a black person or a black girl goes missing? And you have all of these details that are adding up that does not make any sense. There's definitely foul play into this case. Something happened to Sage Smith. She didn't willy-nilly just go away. She seemed to have loved her life. She wouldn't leave her grandmother. The detectives that was on the case, but he's no longer on the case, even said that there is a bigger issue here. One being as though that Sage came from a black, poverty-stricken neighborhood, that not a lot of people took interest into this case. And that's the truth. There's a lot of cases that I have covered that I'm like, I never heard anything about these people. And why? Because when I look at them, 9 times out of 10, they are black people, and they just don't get the proper media attention, or people don't really take into their cases. And that's why we have to change the narrative, and we have to do. But nonetheless, that is the episode of Sage Smith. Her family says that she was lovable, she loved to dance, have a good time, and they're still continue to pray that she will come home safe. So guys, until the next missing person case Monday, I will see you. I'm sending her family love and light, and I hope that some new information turns around. And I'll link everything down below so you guys can read it. This article that I read was very detailed, so I'm very appreciative of that, because I like to give you guys all the information that I can find on something. So until the next video, guys, I'll see you.